The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual guests. If you're a sensitive snowflake that may get easily offended, then turn this off immediately. If you want to hear the real truth about the gun culture, then stick around. This is the Armed Citizen Podcast. On my Go Squad, welcome to the Armed Citizen Podcast Live. This is episode number 197, I believe. Today's date is Tuesday, June 22nd, 2021. If you're out there live, first of all, welcome. If you're new out there, then let us know that you're new. Tell us where you're from. We'll give you a shout out, just like Marco Polo out there says, good evening, all new here. So welcome to the dark side, Marco. We cannot promise you that we're not going to make you any smarter, but we just hope not to make you any dumber. We're going to try to pass some information out here, talk a little bit about our experiences and all of that, and try to have fun along the way. Once again, if you're out there live, go ahead and say something. We don't know that you're out there unless you say something. If you have a question or a comment throughout the show, just tag myself and we'll try to get to as many questions as we can if they're relevant to the conversation and all of that. If you want to text or call in, yes, you can call into the show. Call or text on the Ghost Tactical Hotline presented by our good friends at sportsmansguide.com. That number is 530-364-4678. If you're a veteran or anyone out there, but especially if you're a veteran and okay, everybody there?
I'm here.
Holy cow. So Sorry about that. If most of you guys know that we don't have internet here at the house, so I run off my phone, and all of a sudden, right as we're going, my phone just starts to update and cuts off out of the blue. So you gotta love. I hope everyone is still out there. If not, hey, I get it. But sorry about that. The holy cow, that was weird. That was very strange. My phone updated on its own and restarted. So when that happened,
have you been putting off updates?
what's that? Since this morning, yeah. I mean,
Yeah. See, I've noticed that with, I don't know if it's a Samsung thing now or what, but I've noticed that mine will only allow me to put off updates so many times, and then it'll force you to do it, which is stupid.
And it just did. It is at absolute wrong possible time. It updated. So I don't know where I was, but I'm going to go ahead and continue the spiel. If you're a veteran out there, or anyone out there in general, but especially a veteran, and you're in that dark hole and you don't know if you can find the light or if there is a light, please call me, text me, email me 24/7. I'm always here to talk. I cannot give you medical advice, but I sure as hell can probably be a pretty good ear. And if you are looking for someone to send you down the road of medical advice, remember two things. One, you are not alone. And two, the world is a much better place with you in it. So please contact the Veteran Crisis Hotline at 1-800-273-8255. Once again, 1-800-273-8255. We are going to spotlight, as always, United States Marine Corps. If you have any questions or want to know more information about what it takes to earn the title United States Marine, check out the website marines.com. And as always, we are a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. It is a great website that has like-minded podcasts out there that are pro-gun, pro-2A, pro-freedom podcasts, and all of that. So go check out selfdefenseradio.net. And they're making some jokes. The ATF got me. I put a poll out there to the chat, and the ATF must have got me. Before we get going, I do want to shout out our Patreon members. We got a new one as of yesterday, Michael CE. So welcome to the dark side, Michael. Thank you to all my YouTube channel members, including Lucy out there, Ricardo, before the show started. $10 super chat says boo. So boo right back at you. And as always, we do not ask for super chats. We don't encourage them, but they're very much appreciated. And any and all super chats that come in, we send right over to send care packages to our troops overseas. So it goes to a great cause. But thank you, Lucy. Appreciate you very much. Like I said, Marco Polo's out here. He's new here, first time. Where are you from there, Marco? And we'll try to get that going. James is out there. Gizzard Gary, Warsaw Patriot. Let's just let's go run through the room. 223 DMR, Guns and Barbecues out there. Bucks out there, Gun Loving Grandpa. G23, we mentioned Ricardo. Ricardo found that he has some special emojis now that he is a channel member. Not just the crayons, but he's found some cool emojis out there. So we found one of them. So thanks for all of that. Let's see here. Del Ray's out there. What's up, Dan? How you doing, my man? Dan the man. Let's go down. Jason Stewart's out there. Jason had mentioned earlier that he's getting ready to start carrying, so he's going to be looking forward to this conversation. I think I said Warsaw's out there. James is out there. Gizzard Gary's out there. Let's see here. Yeah, it did cut me off. It cut me off pretty special, but that's okay. MKJO's out there. I'm missing Cherry City Guns and Ammo's out there. What up, folks? There's another channel member. So if you see those guys out there that have the green letter in their names and the crayon next to them, that lets you know that they're a channel member. I appreciate you very much. Davidius Reynolds is out there. What's up, Davidius? How are you doing? I love that name, Davidius. I hope that's a real name. That's a badass name if that's a real name. Let's see here. Who else is out there? Check your phones for COVID. There you go. Exactly. The 1%'s out there. Rich White, what's going on? I think I've caught up to everybody and all that. So let's bring in our good buddy from the great state of Texas, the tactical leprechaun. What's up, Clove? How you doing, man?
Yo.
Yo. So
Yo.
G23 wants to know.
Uh-oh.
It's it's about 70 at this point, which is awesome. 70 care packages. It's pretty awesome. So thank you to everyone. The average package, they say, is anywhere from $15 to $20 and all that. We've raised a lot of money since, I guess it was like, what, December? I think like the 1st of December is when I started doing that. Maybe send some care packages for Christmas. Maybe it's November, late November. But since then, we've raised a lot of money, like well over $1,000, and it's gone probably around 70, 75-ish care packages overseas. So that's awesome. I really do appreciate you guys. And we use several different companies to do that with. The main one that we use, especially starting out, was Operation Gratitude. And so it's they're doing good work. And they're the ones that came up with the number that said the average is about $15 to $20, depending on the package itself. So but yeah, it's pretty awesome. Yeah, G23 does need to double that number. Yeah, I mean we're gonna keep doing it. So I mean it's not like we're gonna stop sending packages over there. That's something that's gonna go on now. That's a thing. But yeah, I think that it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool that we've done already 70 to 75 roughly. So I'm happy, very, 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 very happy with that for sure. What's going on with you, man? You doing all right?
Yeah, it's been working on videos and other things, working on getting, good Lord, speaking of packages, working on getting stuff mailed out between the Friday show and then all the Patreon stuff and YouTube channel member stuff. And
yeah,
God, it's gonna be a pretty big bill at the post office, I think.
that's what it is. And
Yeah.
So next time, tomorrow, Thursday night, guys, do me a favor. Do me a favor if you're a fan of CloverTech. Thursday night at 8 Central, 9 Eastern, 8 Central, Clover has the Studio podcast, and we go over the nerd stuff and talk about the insides and behind the scenes of content creation. That being said, do me a favor, and we need to get about $150 in super chats that night. The reason why, they're going to take their portion of it, but that will help Clover get his shit mailed. So let's get some super chats Thursday night so we can get his stuff mailed out.
You know what? I'm thankful.
GoFundMe for your mailing bout.
Yeah, that's great, and I'm thankful for anybody that does chip in. You know, I would say if you want to help out, honestly, go over to the swag store.
There you go.
And that just adds more stuff I got to freaking mail. But I mean, at least you get something for, right. Or Patreon or YouTube channel member. But I'm blessed like you are. I have people that super chat. I have Patreon patrons. I have the YouTube channel members. So I can swing it. I could, it's going to hurt. Don't get me wrong. Spending that much to
but you're going to be able to
mail stuff.
You're still gonna be able to feed yourself, I guess, right?
I spent, I don't even remember because we bought a whole bunch of stuff, groceries and other things, but I had to buy a bunch of boxes and envelopes and other things. I told you the other day at Walmart just to be able to box the stuff up. So it's not just the cost of the shipping when you do stuff like that, but the supplies you need. You need mailers and you need tape and you need boxes and you need all this other stuff. And it gets hectic, but it'll be okay.
That's right. All right. You got anything that's going on the last couple of days or anything you want to catch up with before we jump in, or any exciting news or anything?
Yeah, tomorrow I've got Rachel Malone on a podcast at 5 Eastern, 4 Central. And if you're not familiar, she is GOA Texas. So yeah, going to be kind of finishing up the Texas constitutional carry, all the 2A bills and that by having her on. Still working, trying to get the scheduling right for a couple of Texas politicians to have them on. But yeah, hopefully we'll have Rachel tomorrow unless something comes up between now and then.
There you go. Guns and Barbecue says he feels like he's responsible for at least 100 of that mailing bill. Very well could be. We got the General. I don't know. Do we address him as General Washington or President Washington, or how about General President or President General? Kind of interesting little dictatorship name, right? The President General. But George Washington says, "Sorry, I'm late. He was out in the cornfield chasing raccoons." Well, I hope he didn't get bit. They're cute. They're cute animals, but man, those things, little suckers, are mean. Especially when they start hissing at you. They are mean little freakers, but they're cute to look at. All right, so we're gonna dive on in. Once again, you guys know that I'm a member of a lot of different groups over on Facebook. There are a lot of them are concealed carry, a lot of shooting firearms, two-way stuff. But I'm in a couple pretty large concealed carry and EDC and different stuff like that groups. And I'm always over there. I'm always fascinated. And I guess just because I think a lot of us have been carrying for so long and all that, you take for granted certain things, and you get questions in there asked all the time about, hey, what, just getting my concealed carry, or, hey, speaking of Texas, we just passed constitutional carry. I've got a couple of months before I'm going to start carrying. But what should I do? What should I look out for, and all that stuff? And like I said, for me, it's one of those things. I think for a lot of us, it's one of those, we take for granted the knowledge that we've learned throughout the years, that we don't think about necessarily the people that are new to carrying. And we've had such an influx of new gun owners to begin with. And I think that, and I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but I would imagine that the majority, I'm not say the vast majority, but the majority of the new gun owners bought guns probably to carry or for self-protection, self-defense, and all of that. And I think that there are people out there that may be afraid or nervous to ask questions because, as we know, the cesspool of social media, we tend to be a little negative towards people that aren't as smart as we think we are. And there's some negative comments that you see all the time by people about, hey, what kind of holster, what kind of gun, and hey, just bought this XYZ gun. Well, what should I do? The first thing, go buy a new gun. That's trash or whatever. Shut up. This person bought a gun and they bought it for a reason, so we're going to try to help them. And so that was where this, we've done this before, Clover. We did this a couple of years ago or so, kind of about the do's and don'ts for the new carriers. But I think there are a lot more people that are carrying now. And then with the massive influx now, 21, including the state of Texas, possibly 22 with Louisiana coming down the line, possibly. We're almost at half the country has passed constitutional carry. And I think that that's awesome. First of all, is if you think about Texas is the 21st state, we almost have half the country that have passed constitutional carry in their individual states. Now, with Texas coming on board, we easily have the vast majority of the landmass of America under constitutional carry. Which is awesome. But yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. Clove changed his avatar to the Blackjack 21 representing Texas. So yeah, have you been? Let's go ahead and kick this off. But you've been covering the constitutional carry and all that, and you do carry. But have you noticed in your kind of Texas maybe groups that you're in, the people talking about, hey, I never wanted to get my CCL or whatever you guys licensed to carry down there, but now that we have constitutional coming in September, I want to start carrying. Have you started noticing people asking questions at all?
Not so much. And I think there's a reason that you have people that aren't asking a lot of questions, and it has to do with the jackwagons that you're mentioning that's so hateful and they're mean and everything. And you talk about gear, that gun is not good enough, or that ammo is not good enough, or that holster's not good enough. Man, the vitriol starts even before that. It's right. I don't want people carried that aren't trained properly. It's like, whoa, hold on a minute. Whoa, time out. Because what are you talking about? I mean, I don't know how other states do it, but other than teaching basically of like the law or whatever, as far as firearm safety goes, and handling and carrying, our license to carry program since its inception has pretty much been a joke, even when it was an 8-hour course instead of a 4.
Right.
it was classroom except for like 2 hours of it or an hour of it or some kind of crap. And even then it was standing in front of a static target shooting at a piece of paper. So hold on a minute. You're on some kind of a high horse because you went to a 4-hour or an 8-hour little sit down course where you kind of sort of learned the laws of carrying, and that somehow makes you better than somebody that you don't know, maybe a lifelong firearm owner, maybe a competitive shooter, maybe this, maybe that, but just never really wanted to pursue the license, be it the cost or the time
or never pursued
whatever the case may be. And, you know, I hate to say it, but let's stop for a minute and be honest. Really, how hard is it to grasp firearm safety? I mean, really.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah, and you bring up the point of the competitive shooter or lifelong firearm. Just because they're new to carrying doesn't mean that they're not new to firearms, or it means that they're new to whatever. Like you said, we could have Julie Golub here, and if Julie is a world champion competitive shooter, but let's just take her as an example. Let's just say Julie has never carried before for whatever reason. Now she decides she wants to carry. I'm pretty sure I'm okay with her carrying. She might have some questions about different things, but I'm not worried about her proficiency as a firearm owner and shooting a firearm and all that. So I like what you're saying is let's, before we start judging people, which the cesspool of social media has a tendency of doing that, let's also, before we start judging and all that, let's find out what their background is. If someone asks you, hey, new to carrying, what should I start doing, or what should I start looking for? Instead of saying, hey, just bought a XYZ gun, let's just say I just bought a high point, going to be starting carrying. Instead of just dogging them, say, hey, what's your background with firearms? Are you a new gun owner? Like you've never fired a gun? Or ask those questions. First of all, don't be an asshole, which there's a lot of assholes out there, but that's the biggest thing. Floss out there. Holy hell. You know, I love Foss, but Mighty Mouse out there is going to drop $10 in a super chat. Thank you very much. But he doesn't even ask a question or call me a dumbass or anything. He doesn't say anything. He just drops $10. At least get your money's worth. Foss. Come on, man.
Well, silence is golden, and so is that super chat, apparently, from the color it was. So, you know, if I could speak to potentially somebody that has tuned into this, that maybe they don't carry, maybe they're thinking about it, maybe they're a first time firearm owner. If I could stress one thing that you really need to ingrain in yourself in muscle memory, and even lifelong, whatever firearm owners, I see FUDs all the time that oh my God, it irks me to no end. Trigger discipline. When you start talking about holstering and unholstering and stuff like that, trigger discipline is super, 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 super important.
I was going to bring that up, but in a way, I was going to ask you, you and I think a lot, it's scary sometimes how we are thinking alike. I was going to say, hey, if now the 3 or 4 safety, I know that you say there's 3 and all that, right? But all that, I was going to say, what's the most important for, and I honestly do think it's keep your finger off the trigger until you intend to pull it. So we were thinking right along that way. And that is something that if you get that, okay, and you do nothing at home but practice, keeping your finger off the trigger or out of the trigger guard or anything like that, just completely away from the trigger, you're going to be safer than most people that are lifelong fire owners.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I mean, I know that I do. I'm sure you do. I find myself at the range sometimes in that trigger well, maybe a little bit earlier or whatever. We all make that mistake. But if you're really conscious about keeping that finger away from the trigger until you're ready to pull it, you're going to be safer than a lot of people for sure. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I mean, without a doubt. And I mean, that's one of them things where, it's why we got the multiple rules. We've talked about this before, but any one of those rules followed mitigates the chances of, a negligent issue to near zero, right? All of those followed right? Or the more you compound onto it, right? If you follow all of the rules, be it 3 or 4, I guess, the fourth rule really has nothing to do with safety. It has to do with that, basically after you fired, because that's know your target and what's beyond it. Well, up until the point that you fire, that doesn't really matter. But anyway, if you follow that, let's just say the 3, right? I mean, it's almost absolute zero chance at that point.
Right.
Not that something weird, crazy, 1 in 8 billion couldn't happen. But
So
near zero. But how many times we've all seen it? I mean, how many times have we been muzzle swept before, right?
Yeah.
And whether it's somebody's finger, a lot of times their finger's not on the trigger when they're muzzle sweeping. They're uncasing a rifle, they're uncasing a pistol or something like that. And, their finger is nowhere on the trigger. It's on the, handguard and the stock or whatever the case may be, and they muzzle sweep. Well, I don't get me wrong, I don't like being muzzle swept. But, if somebody muzzle sweeps me and their finger is in that trigger guard, that's going to be a way different reaction than if they're just sweeping me coming out of a case or something like that. I'm going to go, hey, whoa, what are you doing? If they muzzle sweep me and they got their finger on the trigger guard, they're probably fixing to get tackled to the ground, or something's fixing to get knocked out of their hand, or they're getting knocked upside the head or something.
I'd like to see that actually. Not in some being unsafe, but I'd like to see like your reaction to that. That'd be kind of funny. Real quick, shout out G23, $20 super chat. Thanks, brother. So isn't the first thing you do with a firearm is look down the flashy hole? I want anyone out there that's new to this show and new to gun ownership and new to carrying. He's joking. First of all, he's joking. It's sarcasm. It's sarcasm. So absolutely not. Don't do that. DM Foss out there says, since he sent a super chat without talking about it, I'll use this as his one thing. He said, that's what I did before I started carrying. I worked on drawing and presenting until I did it without fingering the trigger. Exactly. When I'm at the range and I'm doing my safety briefing and all of that, we're a cold range, but when we're doing a fun shoot or whatever, I do allow people to keep their guns holstered, unloaded. And they can't load until they get up to the line. And I say load and make ready and all of that. But I've had to, because even last year there was a range incident that someone died. Literally after he was, he loaded, make ready, and was reholstering. And just because he's reholstered that gun, this is not at my range, by the way, but I saw this happen somewhere. I can't remember where it was, but is it a competition? It was reholstering, as he did, kind of slipped whatever fingers in the trigger, shot his artery, and was dead a minute later. Those freak things. This guy's been doing competition forever. So I even say, look, even when you're reholstering, I want you to look that gun into the holster, just for safety issues. And a lot of people, I find myself, I don't always do that until, I try to do that more often now. But, you're so used to, where that holster is, where everything is, and you just get used to it. But looking at that gun into the holsters is something as simple as that, for sure. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. If nothing else, it keeps the cant of that gun away from, because, don't get me wrong. It'd be bad if you shot yourself in any way, shape, form, or fashion. But grazing the outside of your leg is a lot worse than that cant inward, right, where it's going to potentially get an artery. So, could the accident still happen looking it? Yes, it probably could. But if you were looking, I think there's more of a chance you would be canted outward at that point. Yeah. To G23's comment earlier, as long as you are properly adhering to 2 of the safety rules, which is finger off the trigger and action open, look down the flashy hole all you want. I encourage it.
I get what you're saying. I just don't. I'll look from.
Well, how else are you going to check to make sure there's not an obstruction, right? Especially if you're talking about some firearm you took out of a sock drawer, or something like that, and you're going to take to the range.
I will look at from the action side of it, not from the muzzle side of it. Just saying. That's just me, though. That's just me. I don't trust myself,
I guess, but if the action is open, the action's locked open, right?
Yep.
and your finger's not on the, if the action is locked open,
I
it's not
get it.
loaded.
No, I understand the
Loaded.
premise of what you're saying. I'm just not going to do it.
You know,
That's just something,
that's where the rules of firearm safety, they have to be fluid, right?
Sure.
They, to an extent. I mean, they're not hard and fast, because how would you ever shoot anything if you know what I mean? So how would you clean your firearm? How would you maintain anything? Right? They're not hard and fast, and that's why there's multiple rules and multiple layers to it. But again, that all gets into I think nuances that you got to grasp the basics first.
Yep. No, and like you said, the safety rules are not concrete. They are not absolute. They are guidelines to live by. Add what you want to it. Those are just the basics. You can never be, I'll put it this way, you can never be too careful. So
yeah, I'm curious on your range. We're talking about that. So, on our particular range, for 4-H, we started out 4-H utilizes the 3 rules: muzzle, action, trigger, mat. But there was 12. There ended up being 12. By the time we added it all to the range rules. So, any idea for your range how many rules there actually are for range rules there? Obviously, the big 3 or 4 apply.
I have posted a big thing on the pistol range. I'm only speaking for pistol range, because that's what I'm the director of. Is the 4 basic safety rules. And now when we have events and we have other things and we're going to have our safety briefing, we might have specific ones for that event, but just in generalities, I've got the 4 safety rules posted up on the wall and all of that by the pistol range. So yeah, I mean, we like I said, individuals, because here's the thing. Very rarely, especially if you go to a range, it's a public range and all that, very rarely are you going to have an RSO there. We are all, if we're handling a gun and we're at the range, we are all RSOs. We are all out there we should be vigilant and out there making sure that not only myself is safe, but everyone on that line is safe. And if there's no official safety officer present, we're all RSOs on that line. So that's just something to always remember as well.
It's pretty cool. I mean, if you go to, depending on what range you're shooting on, I guess, and or, especially if you go to some fairly organized competitions, like when you get ceasefire. So it's really cool because of the echo, right? It's really, really important. So remember that if you're on the range and you hear ceasefire, then you holler ceasefire.
Yes.
And you
repeat
do
every command you hear.
Yes,
Absolutely.
because the person next to you, maybe they, for whatever reason, they didn't hear it, right? And so always repeat those safety commands like that, especially a ceasefire.
Yeah, I would say both. The 2 biggies are there: ceasefire and range is hot. Okay, or going hot. If you have multiple people on that line and there's someone out there that is towards the end and they may not hear, hey, eyes and ears, range is going hot. And when I'm down there at the range and all that, I'll make sure everyone gives me a thumbs up. And I'll say, okay, range is hot, because there could be someone with their, not everyone has electronic earplugs or whatever. They might just be stuffing cotton in their ears and they can't hear anything. And so you not only use visual, but voice, but you also use visual thumbs up or thumbs down or whatever. Because the last thing you want to do is, if you're getting ready to send the range hot, is at the last second some dude grabs his target stand and starts walking down range because he can't hear anything. So if you're out there, make sure that before you go hot, make sure everyone is paying attention. They've given you a thumbs up, the eyes and ears and all of that. Make sure that no one's getting ready to walk out. They visually give you the okay, hey, I'm ready to shoot. If one person on that range does not give you that confirmation, don't make the range hot. We can sit there in a cold range until we need everyone has done that. But you're have to be a range safety officer. It could be someone next to you. If someone calls ceasefire, everyone repeat it as loud as they can. Ceasefire, ceasefire, ceasefire. There are some seriously bad things that probably have happened at ranges because everyone assumes that everyone heard the ceasefire call. We don't know that. So yeah, I'm the Yeti out there, says CCW class is Sunday. So excited. So Yeti, do you have any questions for Clover or myself or anyone in the chat? Because I think Jason and Yeti are ones that are coming up on their CCW class this weekend, which is awesome. Mentality of Gun says, I'm late. What's tonight's word for thought? Safety. We'll just say tonight's keyword is safety. At least it is so far. Now, Cherry City Guns and Ammo says, I'd like to hear your opinion on purse carry. Not for me. Just a controversial topic in a discussion with a woman who can't carry on her person. So I want to sit there and say, let's expand this a little bit, Clove, and say purse carry or backpack carry for a guy. There's a lot of people that will do backpacks, and we'll just say off person carry, whether it's a backpack or a purse or whatever. Do I personally utilize it? I do carry backpacks that have firearms in them, but I'm always going to have one on my hip.
Right.
I have no problem. I may not practice it myself, but I have absolutely no problem with off-person carry, whether it's a purse or a backpack or whatever.
Right.
I would much rather have someone carrying in a purse or a backpack than not carrying at all.
100%.
So, go for it. What say you?
Yeah, 100%. And what I would say is, if you're talking about a fanny pack, the number one thing I hear, is, well, let's see, there's two things that I hear. Number one is, if it's in a pack of some sort or a purse, you can lay it down, and then maybe somebody steals your purse or whatever. So you have to be, if you're going to carry that way, you have to be cognizant and vigilant about laying that down, right, for whatever reason. Absolutely. Number two is people, a purse snatcher, right? Somebody grabs it off your shoulder or grabs this, that, or the other. Well, you eliminate that by the fanny pack. It locks around your waist, right? So nobody's going to snatch and grab that. Or I guess they could, and the buckle could break. I mean, it's possible, right?
Sure.
But also, if you're talking about a purse or even a sling pack, you could carry that way cross body, and it would have the same effect, right? It wouldn't just be over one shoulder. It'd be much harder to snatch and grab. So if you are going to off-body carry like that, I think just be cognizant about, if you go to the bathroom or if you do, when you have to take it off for some reason, and when you're wearing it, make sure you're wearing it in a way that's going to be difficult for somebody to get it off your body.
Yep. And I'll say this, no matter what position you carry, whether it's appendix, small in the back, hip, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, wherever, ankle, shoulder, however you carry, we talk about that. There's no right or wrong answer. How you decide to carry is individually your choice. But no matter what, make sure that you're practicing that draw. Whether you're going live at the range or just doing it dry fire with no ammo in the gun at home, but you're worrying about that draw. If you're going to go off body, whether it's a fanny pack, a backpack, a purse, whatever it may be, you've got to practice drawing from that bag or that fanny pack or that purse or whatever. There are a lot of great purses and backpacks and all that are designed for concealed carry that may have like a little zipper. You sling it over and it pulls out. Whatever you're going to use, practice it. Okay, practice it, because just because you're great from the draw from the hip and you sit there and say, well, I don't put it in my bag very often, so what, it might be once a month I have to carry it in a purse or in a backpack. So there's really no reason to practice, because it'll never happen that one day. That might be the day. So practice it.
Also, maybe practice, especially if you're talking super close quarter, which most encounters are going to happen that way. Practice shooting through the bag, quite honestly.
Tell you that what they consider a self-defense range, engagement range, is 21 feet. And so it's 7 yards, but 21 feet inside 21 feet. Defense shoot happen within 10 feet.
Right.
So be proficient all the way to 25 yards with your handgun, 50 yards, whatever it is. 21 feet's basically what the courts will tell you. That's about the extent of what they would consider as a qualified self-defense shoot. Most shootings in that situation happen within 10 feet. So what Clover was saying, that's going to be close quartered right there. Okay. That's going to be something that you're going to have to just know that, and this is going to get in a whole new rabbit hole, but you know, at that distance, at that range to target, a lot of people can just point and shoot because they've got the muscle memory enough and the presentation to where they're not having to, but that's over time, years and years of practicing and drill after drill. But at that point, I know at 10 feet, I'm just going there and I get you know.
Let's be honest, within arm's length, nobody's going to aim.
Absolutely.
It ain't happening. I don't care how skilled you are or whatever. It's going to happen so fast and everything else, that within an arm's length, they're going to pull it out. The muzzle's going to be wherever it's going to go bang, and that's it. The other aspect of, just being able to be aware of where the muzzle is pointing simply by muscle memory. Where that's going to be valuable too is, let's say that you get taken to the ground for whatever reason, right? And somebody's on top of you, right? And you've got to draw, or you've got to pull it out, you've got to do something, right? Then you've got to be aware of, by how your hand is on that grip. You know what I'm saying? The muscle memory that if I twist my wrist this way or that way, the muzzle's where it needs to be to get the job done.
Correct. And that just comes with practice. And there are people, when I go to the range, like I did Sunday for a little bit, I didn't take my camera out there. I just shot for a little while. And I worked on my own skill set and my own stuff. And when I'm at the range working on stuff and someone walks up, they'll look at me like, what the hell are you doing? Because I'm working on this weird stuff. I'm working on what if my right arm is injured and I've got to go weak hand. I've got to change a magazine with single hand, weak hand only. How do I rack that magazine and how do I, all that stuff. But if you're never practicing that, then you're never going to be prepared for that. I don't want to go down a training thing because that's just a whole other issue. But yeah, I hear what you're saying is you've got to be thinking, whether or not you're practicing, you've got to mentally be thinking of different scenarios that could play out. Yeti out there says, what should I expect and what should I do to be prepared? So I don't know what state you're in. So I don't know what your CCW licensing thing is. I can only go by what it is here in Arkansas, and Clover could give some insight at Texas, and they're probably very, very similar. For your license to carry or your concealed carry handgun license, CCHL here in Arkansas. Don't
expect a lot. That would be my.
Your expectations is not a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Beyond.
Yeah.
Buck says, let's make this Sunday weekend only. So Buck and I are going to be shooting together this Sunday. We can definitely do some of that for sure. I wouldn't say only weekend, but I think we should throw in some weekend stuff for sure. No doubt.
As far as being prepared, and I'm assuming there's some type of a shooting proficiency type thing. Don't at all be worried about that. I mean, most states that I know of, I mean, literally a blind person, and we know people who have done it. Literally a blind person can qualify. So don't fret too much about that. But as far as being prepared, just make sure, have a calm demeanor and everything, and make sure that when you go out to do the proficiency part, you're following safety protocols and everything. You don't want to get called out for that for sure.
I would say that, and I want to say that I don't think Ohio's a may issue. I'm pretty sure they're a shall issue, which means you're probably good. If you're worried about the shooting portion of it, they're going to not let you leave until you've passed the shooting portion. It might take you a couple extra times than other people. Take your time, do your thing. If it's like it is here in Arkansas, you might only have to shoot 5-6 rounds. I don't know. I can't speak. And it's an individual instructor as well. The biggest thing I can tell you is I'm going to tell you that the classroom portion of it is probably going to be 6 of the 8 hours or however. It's going to be 3/4 of your time there.
Yeah, easily.
It's going to be mind numbing and it's going to be boring, especially if you have a boring speaker. But if they are a good quality instructor, they're at least going to go over the concealed carry laws in your state. Now, whether or not they do it in a way that's going to be entertaining or whatever, figure out a way that you're going to be able to listen, because the most important thing is it's not necessarily where you can carry, it's knowing where you can't. Because the last thing you want to do is carry in a place that is prohibited, that you may not know is prohibited just by general knowledge.
Right.
You get caught and now you're in that predicament. So I would study up, make sure you know where you can carry, where you can't carry. Ask questions. If your instructor is one of those people that discourages questions, they just want to go through their spiel and be done with it, then ask for your money back and go somewhere else. Their job is to help you get that license, but also to prepare you. So if you have a question, ask it. There is no such thing as a dumb question. You're paying them to teach you. So
right.
ask
And you can also, I'm assuming that they are somehow, certified, whatever, by the state. So if you do get a trainer, an instructor that is like that, they're just blowing through the material, and they're not asking questions, and you do, especially if it's so bad that you have to ask for your money back, report them. Yeah, absolutely. I don't have a problem with that.
Let's see here. He says also wondering about getting CCW insurance. Man, that's a whole nother podcast on its own. Depends on who you ask.
I'm going to tell you no.
I'm going to tell you no. As far as should you, I don't think anyone should do anything that they don't want to do. If that's something that you want to do, then absolutely. Make sure that you're doing your research, especially in the state. There might be some things through the NRA in your state or your local gun club. They might suggest certain companies. There are a lot of great companies. There's probably 5 or 6 of them out there that are legitimate, that will help you in litigation. That's really the insurance that you're buying is not an insurance, except for if something goes wrong, you'll have access to attorneys to help you with litigation, whether it's civil or criminal. That's really what quote unquote carry insurance is about, is having access to attorneys should something go wrong. Depends on what you think is important or not.
Well, when I say, exactly. When I say no, I'm coming from me.
Yeah,
I'm not saying
for a lot of years.
I'm not saying
anymore.
I'm not for a second telling anybody else, no, you don't need
Absolutely.
it. You have to make, that's a risk assessment thing, right? And so you have to make that assessment. For me, there's a couple of things that come into play. I look at what is the probability I'm ever going to have to draw and defend myself. Where I live, the area I live in is a massive, and the area I travel is a massively huge factor with that. And the answer to that question for me is near zero. Then if I get into that situation, as far as law enforcement in the area, the attitude toward firearm ownership, defending yourself, what is that sentiment like? Have we got, crazy district attorneys that are just looking to lock people up and railroad people, or are they laid back? Well, I know for a fact, I've seen self-defense situations in this where somebody literally defends themselves. They kill the attacker, and they're literally, the police show up, they fill out a form, and they go home with their gun and everything else. Very pro self-defense area that I live in and travel. So the odds of anything ever happening, zero. And then the odds of, if that happens, the odds of it being a bad situation for me and me needing some type of insurance like that, again, near zero. So for me, it's just, it's not worth it to me based on that risk assessment.
Yeah, and I had USCCA for several years, up until last year, maybe 2019. I don't remember. Last year was kind of such a weird year. I don't remember if it was whenever it was. And I want, not because I didn't like USCCA at all. I actually really enjoy what USCCA provided. It wasn't just the insurance; it was a whole community. And USCCA does a great job of having videos out there, and obviously the USCCA show and convention and all of that. But there's a lot of stuff that go in with what you sign up. It's not just insurance, but you can ask questions. So all of that stuff is good. I can't speak for other ones. I've heard US Law Shield's pretty good and all that. I've heard a lot of them are good. I went away over it, not because I stopped liking USCCA, kind of like what where I am. I put it to you this way: the judge has a shooting range on his property. So, you know what I'm saying? I mean, that's kind of where we are. The prosecuting attorney, son is a national champion trap shooter for high school kids. I'm not worried about being blackballed and all of that through the litigation process from people here where I live. So kind of the same thing is it just wasn't really worth it to me because I really didn't see the need for it. What I will say is if you travel a lot and you travel out of state on a regular basis, not like a couple times a year like we do, but on a regular basis, you're traveling across state lines and you're going to places obviously with concealed carry, reciprocity, or they have constitutional carry or whatever. That's when you can start going into some of those insurance policies because they do have different states and all of that to where it could help you. But it really comes down, if someone should tell you that you don't need it or someone tell you absolutely you do need it, neither one of them are right. You have to decide, is it worthwhile to you? Is that price per month or that yearly fee or whatever it is worth it to you to feel more comfortable? And I can't make that decision for you. No one's going to sit there. And if they try to tell you what you should do, then don't listen to them because there is no absolutes. It's really what it comes down to you. And G23 says it doesn't stop the felon from suing you. No. Now, it depends on where you are. There are some states that if you are not charged or you are acquitted from criminal charges, then you are exempt from civil charges. That know your own state's laws and all of that. Each individual states are different, but there are some states out there that says if you are not charged or you're acquitted from criminal charges, then they cannot charge you civilly. Put it to you this way, guys, no matter what happens, whether you have insurance or not, we are ultimately all responsible for every round that comes out of our personal firearms. So if you're in that craziness that happens and you have to draw and you have to fire your weapon in self-defense, whether it's a legit clean shot or not, that has nothing to do with it. Two things are going to happen. You're going to be handcuffed and you're going to be detained. I didn't say arrested. You will be detained to answer questions until they figure out what's going on. So if you fire your weapon, the best thing to do is unload it or whatever. Once the threat's done, the cops get there, unload it, set it to the side, say, hey, I'm here. My firearm is over here. And understand, go ahead and stand up because you're probably going to be cuffed and taken at least into a squad car and ask questions. That's just the reality of it, guys. So don't give the police officers crap about, you can't do this to me. Oh, yes, they can. Because until they are satisfied, you are a suspect of murder. Let's be real about it. Whether or not they already know what happened, they have to ask certain questions. They have to make sure that you did not murder someone. You pull a trigger, that's the reality. You're going to get questions. It is what it is. Rod, our good friend Rod Gates out there says your firearm will be taken as evidence for quite some time, so maybe don't carry a $3,000 1911. There you go. Let's see here. Kim Og. So Rod, when he was down in the Houston area, he said in Harris County, Texas, we'll throw Kim Og, the DA in Harris County, will throw your ass in jail for daring to defend yourself. Now, once again, that's a whole nother issue. If you live in an area where, like Clover was saying, is not necessarily as pro-gun as others, then once again, you just have to understand there are going to be circumstances and there are going to be repercussions anytime a trigger is pulled. Whether you are in the right, whether you're in the wrong, it makes no difference until they figure that out. You are going to be looked at, I'm not saying as a criminal, but you're going to be looked at as a murder suspect. That's just the reality of it until they are satisfied that that's not what it was. Just the reality of it. So the insurance, like I said, that is 100% your call. But if you have someone telling you absolutely get it or absolutely stay away from it, don't listen to them because it's got to be your decision. You're the one that's going to be paying that money. You're the one that's going to decide if that is worthwhile for you or not. So that's my little rant on insurance. So I want to bring Clover back in and ask him a question. We're going to kind of go as someone, and I'm not going to speculate. I'm not going to put down the variable of new gun owner, first time gun owner, never done anything. I'm just going to say someone that has made the mental decision to carry, because let's be honest, we talked about this before. Carrying is more mental than it is physical. You have to make that mental decision that you're willing to be that warrior. You're willing to take that responsibility and all of that. But let's say someone has made that mental decision that they want to carry for whatever reason. And they have gone at this point and bought themselves XYZ firearm that they have chosen to be their concealed carry gun. And I'm even going to say they've already decided that whether they're going to carry inside the waist or outside the waist. They've already bought a holster for said gun, whether it's inside or outside. They've already made that decision. So they've already made the mental decision to carry. They've bought the firearm that they want to carry and the holster that they want to carry, because those specific three things could be shows in themselves, multi-hour shows just in themselves. So let's say that's already happened, Clover. In your opinion, if someone was to ask you, hey man, I've decided to carry, I bought the gun, I got the holster, what's the next step that they should take in your opinion?
After they've done bought the firearm and the holster?
Yeah, and they say, hey, I bought the gun, I got the holster. Like, what should I do next if I want to start carrying?
Practice.
Yeah, I think that's a great one.
I mean, even if you're talking non-firing practice, again, holstering, unholstering, maneuvering with the firearm, even if you're kind of going through your house with it, right? Holster, unholster, close into the body is a big thing. I mean, if if it's a situation where you pull, for example, I mean, you don't want to pull and go into this wide triangle, isosceles Weaver stance looking thing. You want that gun, unless you're firing that pistol, you want it to be fairly close into your body, because you don't want somebody to come in from behind potentially and grab it or that kind of thing. So, and again, trigger discipline.
Yep. Man, I'm trying not to go down the hole with this, but this is actually a decent question, especially for Jason, because I know he's taking his CCW test and class this weekend. He said, active retention holster or open draw type, I'm going to carry outside the waist. I personally do not like retention holsters. I like an open draw holster. Do I have some level 2, level 3 retention holsters? Yeah. Most of mine are not going to have any retention. The only retention they're going to have is retention that I have, tightening it up inside the actual Kydex holster itself. It's going to be the retention coming in and out, but there's not going to be anything that you have to flip or push or anything like that. I don't like those. That's me. Now, that being said, I'll bring Clover here in a second, get his thoughts. That being said, if you feel more comfortable having like an alien gear or a safari land as you go and take that, you push a button or whatever that retention process is, if that makes you more comfortable, then do it. And if anyone tells you not to, run from them and tell them to quit speaking to you. If you feel comfortable with a gun that has a thumb safety and a holster that has retention or whatever the criteria, that's you. You're the one who's responsible for those rounds. You're the one that's responsible for that gun. You're the one who's responsible. So you have to decide what you want. I will say that a lot of people, especially when they first start off, like retention holsters because they're not used to carrying and they don't want. That's one of the things we're going to talk about later is, the mindset. A lot of people, when they first start carrying, they want to touch it, make sure it's still there. You're going to know if that gun's not there anymore. You're going to have people who will say, I don't want people coming up behind me and taking it out of my holster. You're going to know if they're trying to take it out of your holster. And if you have reflexes at all, you should be able to stop that. But there are people, especially when they're new to carrying, that like the I don't know, the safety, I would say the satisfaction or the comfort, not like this is comfortable, but the mental comfort of knowing that there's some retention, that it's not just someone can just pull it out. That's up to you. Clover, what say you about retention holsters?
I think that there's something else probably going on in there, or somebody has some super stones if they're trying to take somebody's gun out of their holster. Just saying. At that point, they're within the proximity and so close to you. You should, like I said, something else is going on, and you should be aware something else is going on. You're already tussling and rustling around on the ground, or you're already in a shoving match with them, or there's something going on, right? Just somebody running up out of the blue and grabbing your gun. I just don't. It's like, really? Does that happen? I don't know that it probably does, but I don't know that it happens that often. That said, as far as retention, do I have them? Yes. Do I like them? No, I don't. When you're talking about Kydex or even leather, and you're talking about the friction retention type, that's plenty enough for me. Now, if I was in some type of situation or job or going to do something that I was going to be breakdancing or something like that, then maybe I would make that decision. But I will tell a story here one time, something embarrassing that happened to me one time. So I carry small.
First of all, if you're going to break dance, please film that, Clover. Please,
yeah,
please.
Well,
you'll
never see that. So anyway, so I was went to eat at a restaurant one time. I carry small of the back sometimes, and that particular time I was carrying small of the back. Again, no retention because it's a Kydex holster.
Outside the waist, we're small of the back too.
It's inside. This was inside the waistband.
Well, this one's inside the waist. Okay.
Yeah, this one is my small of the back is, this particular one, right? Yeah, it's inside the waistband, small of the back. Anyway, but I'm just wearing a t-shirt. Mm-hmm. So I sit down, and of course, small of the back, but of course the grip and all is up above my waistline, right? Mm-hmm. So I sit down, and you know how you have the backs on the chairs. It's not a full back, but it has the little slats, right? So this restaurant, that was the chairs, right? And so I sit down, and unbeknownst to me, when I sit down, now I pay attention, especially if I'm wearing small of the back. I pay attention to how I sit down in a chair. But I always sit down and then scoot back rather than sit down and rub the back of the chair as I go down. Because apparently I had rubbed the back of the chair when I went down. And guess what? It caught just enough that it lifted my pistol out of the holster a little bit. The next time I got up, this was a buffet. The next time I got up to head to the buffet, guess what happened? Guess what fell into the floor in the middle of the restaurant? Thank God it wasn't a SIG P320, but that was a little bit embarrassing. Nobody really freaked out or anything. I mean, I snatched it up
where you live. Yeah,
I snatched it up and holstered it pretty quick. I don't know, how many people actually seen it, but it was embarrassing. And so now if I'm wearing small of the back, I'm definitely cognizant of the fact that, especially when I sit down, that hey, it's back there, and so getting up is not a problem, right? It's the sitting down motion that I don't need to be rubbing anything with my back as I'm going in a downward motion, and I'll be fine. And tightening up the retention on it. Honestly, after that, I tightened up the retention on it pretty good as well, which helped.
Yeah. Buck out there he's mentioned this a couple of different times, and I agree 100%. A good gun belt, and we'll sit there and think tactical belts and all of that. No. It doesn't even have to be an actual gun belt. Now, there are a lot of great companies out there that are making really good to hold and handle the weight of a gun and holster on that belt. Obviously, those come in different. They come in leather. They come in the nylon. They come in different buckles. They come, whatever you're looking for. But here's the thing: you don't have to go and buy a gun belt. I would say if you can go find yourself a really good quality, kind of a thick leather belt, that would be a great one to start with. Understanding, just like a leather holster, but a leather belt over time will bend a little bit. It will get loose. It will not always be able to hold up to that weight over time. It might take years for that to happen, but it will. But understand that you don't have to go and buy some tactical gun belt. Go find yourself a belt that's going to be rigid enough, strong enough to hold the weight of that gun. I can recommend some companies out there that I've used. I've used Click Belts, Core Essentials, Next Belts. I've used several different ones. I know that I had a leather belt that I got at Walmart that was just a thicker leather belt that was rigid that ended up working just fine. Clover, when it comes to belts, because that is part of, I think if you're going to carry every day, a belt is important. What are some good things that you could tell people about belts?
So, yeah, I mean, you're right. You can go with something cheap. So I got a belt that was less than $20. I don't have it anymore. But it was a leather belt, and it had some like nylon inlay type stuff that was like camo or something, if I remember correctly. But anyway, it was a fairly thick belt. It was 1.5 inch belt, which I'll get into that in a minute. But got it at a farm and ranch store. I want to say it was a Wrangler brand. But I know it was less than $20. And that thing, it was not pretty when I retired it. Right where my holsters rode, it was worn and rough, and it looked horrible. But it held up, and it worked fine. So, not a problem. Now, I have since went into, I like 1.75 inch belt. It seems like there's more support, especially with me. I mean, I open carry, and I'm prone to do some heavier firearms and stuff. Yeah. And so there's just seems like there's less flex or less give with that 1.75 inch to me. It fits inside belt loops fairly snug. Most belt loops anyway, fairly snug, so that you don't have a lot of up down movement as well. And so,
yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just, that's what I was going to say. As far as, I've got several leather belts. Got one from Star Leather, one from Craft Holsters. And then I've got several nylon that are like from True Spec. So they're 2-ply nylon with like an insert of some type in them, almost like a
Kydex or something inside.
Yeah, almost like a Kydex or something insert. And then for a nylon belt, I guess they're nylon or whatever it is, they're super rigid.
Yes, they are.
And so most of the time I go to those simply because my leather belts have the holes with the buckle traditional thing, and those have a double clasp loop over Velcro type quick do and undo design, which is just, it's easier going to the bathroom and things like that with those belts, honestly, as silly as that sounds, than it is with a leather belt. So, but if I'm looking nice and things like that, I'm going to go leather belt, obviously.
Yeah, I'm the same way. My 99% of every day I wear, it's either a Core Essentials is probably my go-to, but Core, Next, Click, they've all, they're all the same kind of belt. But I have gone to the ratchet belts the last couple of years, and I love ratchet belts just for that same reason. Is it's easy to take on and off, no matter, they go by every like 1/4 inch sizing. So, I mean, you can get as snug or as loose as you want. When it comes to belts, though, if you're out there and this is something that's new to you, Clover brought up the size, whether it's 1.5 inches or 1.75 inches. I prefer 1.75 inches as well. But that's something that you also have to understand is when you're choosing a belt and a holster, if you're going to run an 1.75 belt, you need to make sure that the clip or whatever you're going to attach that holster to the belt is also 1.75 inches. The worst thing you could probably do is have an 1.75 inch belt and an 1.5 inch clip. So make sure that you're making sure that the holster and the belt are going to be both 1.5 inches or both 1.25 inches. What I would suggest doing, this is what I do, because most of my belts are 1.75 inches, but there are times I'll wear an 1.5 inch belt. Here's the thing. I'll always order my clips for my holsters. Well, that's got a different one on there. This has got my outside the waist thing on there. I will always order 1.75 inch clips, because even if I'm wearing 1.5 inch belt, I know that clip is going to be fine. I'd rather have the clip too big than the belt too big where the clip won't attach to it. So always be aware of that. So just make a decision. I would say you're probably safe to always order your holster 1.75 inch clips either way, but at least, you could use a paddle holster or whatever. There's all sorts of different things. But if you're going to go inside the waist with these clips, just make sure you know what clip size you're getting and what belt you're running. Go ahead.
Well, unless you're talking about a belt, honestly, unless you're talking about a leather holster, right? That's sewn and made. Most of your other holsters, whether it's Kydex or hybrid or whatever it might be, most of those, it's really easy to swap the clips. So my suggestion is
go buy a bunch of clips.
Buy it however it comes, and then order extra clips in the next size. And a lot of the clips interchange, quite honestly. So once you have,
you go on Amazon and buy a bunch of them if you want.
Yeah, once you have, I would say there might be a half a dozen different kind of clips, maybe. And once you have, those half a dozen different kind of clips, then you can mix and match and do whatever you need to do with your holster, depending on what you're wearing.
The reason why they're different, and the clips themselves aren't different, it's the configuration of the hole patterns that you screw into that holster.
Right.
That's what he's talking about is worst case scenario is you get your drill, if it's a Kydex holster, and if your holes don't line up perfectly, do what you got to do. I've done that before as well. But yeah, there are different configurations, but you can buy different clips. You can probably go and find all 4, 5, 7 on Amazon and have them as backups, because you never know what's going to happen. Your clip might break as well. It's always nice to have extra clips, but most holster manufacturers are going to have additional clips that you can buy for $5, $10, $15.
Well,
it's worth it.
And part of the reason they offer those, which folks should be aware of too, is for how that holster rides. You may want that holster to ride higher or lower. That's going to require a different clip. It's just longer. The holes are in a different spot, so it makes it ride high or low. Personally, with me, when I OWB, I like it fairly high. Yeah.
Okay. OWB, I don't mind it high. On OWB, I don't mind that at all. Actually, I probably do prefer it higher if I'm going to go outside the waist, for sure.
For me, it's less bump. If it's higher, because your hips tend to bump stuff, right? Your hips typically,
or if you're driving a higher,
even though
more comfortable in the car, all sorts of different things.
Even though I really don't have hips or butt or anything else, that's typically the widest part of your body, and so that's what's going to hit door frames and different things. So if I'm riding higher, it eliminates a lot of that. That's one of the reasons I like it.
Yep, no doubt. So we've gone into gun belts, holsters to a certain extent. I would say the next thing I want to talk about is whether let's just say you're in Texas right now, and Governor Abbott has signed constitutional carry into effect. It is now a law, but it does not go into effect until September. Or you're out there and you're going to get your concealed carry permit, and you might have to wait a month or whatever to receive it in the mail, whatever the case may be. If you've got a time in between now and then, it's not like there aren't things that you can do. everyone's talking about practice, and that's great. But practicing actually just carrying, whether it's loaded or not, carrying it around the house, where carrying it in your car or whatever, don't break any laws in your state, but utilize that time to carry, especially if you've never done it before, because it is going to be a different feel. It is going to be noticeable to you. You are going to have some anxiety with carrying. So if you've got a month or 2 months prior to you can legally carry with your license, or your constitutional carry doesn't go into effect later on the year, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't already go ahead and get that gun, get that holster, get that belt, go to the range, be proficient. But when you're at home, as soon as you step foot in that door, carry it. You're carrying around the house, you're carrying in your car, whatever, carry, because just the act of carrying is going to be new to you. And like I said earlier, I see people all the time in Walmart or whatever. And people, you can tell who the new people that are carrying are, because they're going to be walking the aisle and they're constantly going to just check to make sure that gun's still there, or they're adjusting because it's not comfortable, or whatever the case may be. They're fidgeting with their shirts to make sure it's staying covered up, or whatever it could be. Get used to those things now. Utilize this time between now and when you get your license, or your state's constitutional carry goes into effect, whatever it is. Even if you're getting your license now, I would still, even if you're going to start carrying tomorrow, that's great. But when you come home, don't take that off your hip and put it down there until you're ready. Utilize your home. Take the ammo out of the gun if you want, but walk around, get used to carrying. The last thing that I want to see people doing is fidgeting with their guns in public. It drives me nuts. If you're not comfortable carrying, then don't until you are comfortable, or just quit fidgeting with it. Maybe it's a pet peeve of mine. Maybe most people don't even notice it. For me, it's just a pet peeve that people are always walking around, they're touching it, and they're putting their shirt, making sure their shirt's covering, all of that stuff. You've got to get used to that. That's going to happen in time, but it only comes with practice. You got something you want to follow up with?
Yeah, I don't have it anymore. I had a bad habit, and had some law enforcement friends. I can think of one that was highway patrol here in Texas. And I picked it up from them, unfortunately. But be standing around talking, and I would lean on literally my elbow. You know what I'm saying? I would lean on my firearm. I see people do that to this day. I broke myself from it, but I see other people doing it. Right?
Kind of like that.
Yeah, you just like it's an armrest, literally.
Absolutely, I do that.
Law enforcement are bad to do that. I see lots and lots, and that's where I picked it up from. Quite honestly, it's natural because it's there. It's at my elbow. Like I said, I usually ride high outside the waistband, and so my elbow's on it. And I'm like, okay, if I'm doing that, if somebody sees I'm touching that firearm, right? It's open carry, it's out, and I'm touching it. Is that giving the wrong impression maybe to somebody because I'm touching it in some way? And I'm like, finally, I broke myself from it. The easiest way for me to break myself from it was just wear t-shirts, and I wear outside the waistband most of the time. I've got a t-shirt that's for the most part covering it, and so I don't have a tendency to do that anymore.
Yeah, and that brings up, like, Buck out there, just as you said, that says wear loose t-shirts, or that's up to you. But I would say this: understand that when you make that decision to start carrying, one of the things that's going to change possibly is wardrobe. Not saying you're going to go from preppy to tactical. What I will say is that if you wear a 34-inch waist pant or short, you might have to go to 35 or 36 if you plan on carrying inside the waist. You've got to give room for that holster and all that. So the size of things, if you're worried about printing, me personally, I don't give a shit if I'm printing. I look at printing as an excuse to have a conversation. If someone is freaking out because I'm showing my gun, then we're going to have a talk about it. We're not going to worry about printing. If you are worried about printing, understand you might want to, like Buck says, maybe a looser shirt or a Hawaiian shirt or a shirt with prints. You start wearing Hawaiian shirts or something that has a print on it, because that will disguise the printing. There are a lot of things that you can do. I just don't care about printing myself, but there are a little, especially when you start out. I get that you may not want to, and it might be, where I live, I would say that the vast majority of people do carry here. You might live in a place where you might be the very minority, and you might not want to do that. So that's up to you, but understand wardrobe will probably change. If nothing else, the size of your pants, maybe you have to go up an extra size if you're going to carry inside the waist, and that's okay. But just understand that there are going to be some things in your wardrobe that may have to be adjusted. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say that, that's where, and they do offer, like concealed carry jeans that have adjustment and flex in the waist. But a lot of your quote unquote tactical pants, I don't even like calling them that, honestly, but cargo style pants.
Cargo.
A lot of those have, flex in the, in the waist. So you can have that normal fit. When you're not carrying, right? So you take your holster out and they fit like normal, because it would be aggravating for me. And I have made the switch, and not for anything having to do with carrying, but I've made the switch. I don't wear jeans anymore. And that's one of the things I love about, quote unquote tactical pants or cargo pants is, I will get the ones with that flex, and they fit right. It doesn't matter if I'm carrying or not carrying, if it's inside the waistband or outside the waistband or not at all. They fit right. And not only do they fit right, they have more flex in other places as well. So they're just comfortable.
Yeah, I remember about a year or two when you had that aha, you literally called me, and it's like, I never understood it. Like, what the big deal with the tack pants were, because you were always a jeans guy. And I never understood it. Now I get it. They're just more comfortable, and there's more room. I was like, what? They are more comfortable than jeans.
So it was a progression, I think, for me, man. I love pajama pants, right? Love pajama pants. And it's just because of the freedom.
Flannel?
They're loose, they're baggy. Doesn't matter. Okay. They're loose, they're loose fitting, you know what I mean? Plenty of movement and everything else in them. And they're just comfortable. And so, I mean, I got, a pair. I think I got a pair sent for T&E or something. I think it was the first pair of True Spec, and I was like, it was all over after that. I was like, no, it wasn't. It wasn't. No. True Spec came after the fact. No, I won't get into the personal issues as to why, but I had some personal issues, and just with those jeans and being binding and
you went
flex and movement.
Did you?
And I went to I was asking you questions about them, and because you've worn them, stuff like that for so long, and I went to the Army Navy store and tried, because you could try them on there. And I went to the Army Navy store, and I bought 2 pair that day of True Spec at the Army Navy store. I was cheap, just from the time I got in them.
By the
way, yeah, I guess. But the cheapest pair of True Specs you could get anyway.
Right. They were good.
But and I mean, I've been sold on them ever since. But I mean, I found some similar cargo pants that Wrangler makes that you can pick up at Walmart, and you talk about some from Galls that are not too terribly expensive. I love
Galls, Galls, and I would say the Magellan stuff from Academy has some really good ones as well.
Yeah. So, you don't got to go straight up tactical like True Spec or 511 or something like that. You can, there's plenty of options out there.
No, I wear a lot of Galls during the wintertime and all that. I wear Galls, and you can find those for $20-$25. I've got some that are probably 4 or 5 years old that are still and just as good. You wouldn't be able to tell if they were 4 or 5 years old. They're really well made.
That was my misconception, right? Because I used to wear in another life, right? Mechanicing, when I worked at grocery store, stuff like that, I had to wear slacks.
Sure.
And those things, you hang on something, they'd rip. I mean, it was just, they were horrible, right? Well, cargo pants and or tack pants are they're way more durable. And so that was my concern, and why I've always worn jeans. I'm like, I've always worn jeans because they're just that jean material denim is just way tougher than slacks are, right?
Oh yeah.
And that's what I thought. I thought, okay, I'm going to buy these, I'm going to buy these pants, right? Cargo pants, tactical, whatever. And if I get a year out of them, I'd be lucky. If I get a month without ripping a hole in them, I'd be lucky. And I've been through the briars. I've been rolling around on the ground, working, just all kinds of stuff. And I've still got every single pair I've ever purchased in there. Now, some of them are stained and dirty, but not a single pair.
Yep.
This is what's crazy. Not a single pair has a rip. Now, if I had bought jeans at the same time as them, I would have already worn the knees out. I would have already ripped the crotch. My wife would have already had to sew and patch, is what I'm telling you. With jeans, but with the pants, not so much. So if you're out there and you are a jeans guy, and you're thinking about trying some out, and your reasoning is, well, denim is a whole lot tougher. No. Look into it, because that's not true.
Yeah, Carhartt's got some good stuff, like Smeggy says. I've got some LA Police Gear stuff and Buck says he's got 2 pair of them. LA Police Gear actually has like denim pants as well. Vertex, Rich White. I've got a pair of Vertex. I love those things. But yeah, there's most of the pant companies now, 511, True Spec, and all these. They're going to have what they call concealed carry jeans as well, or tactical jeans. That if you like that denim. But they're going to have different things that'll be maybe better made, or a different kind of material that may look like denim, but may not always, all sorts of stuff. But yeah, there's some great stuff out there. But yeah, it's just one of those where, me. I mean, when it gets down to November through March, I wear my cold weather combat boots and some kind of tack pants every day with fleece or hoodies. That's just how I roll. They're comfortable, all sorts of stuff. Yeah, but yeah, but that doesn't mean you have to wear that. That's just something that I like wearing. They're comfortable to me. But some people say, "Oh, that can't be comfortable." Just try them. You never know. Let's go back up here. Guns and Barbecue says his wardrobe changed completely when he started carrying. He used to wear gym shorts and cutoffs almost daily. It's hard to keep your gym shorts up with a 1911 on your hip. True that. I will say that if you're a person that likes wearing gym shorts or runs or is active, people are going to laugh at you, but fuck them. They can laugh all they want. Belly holsters with the belly bands. You can still use with a belly band holster underneath your t-shirt and your gym shorts if you want to carry that way. It's kind of like a small girdle looking thing, but it'll have a thing for your gun that you can put your holster or your gun in there, so you can still run, you can still work out, you can still wear gym shorts. If whatever lifestyle that you have, there's usually a holster or some kind of clothing excuse me, in our industry now that are going to be suited for you now. I can't say that 5-10 years ago. I can say that no matter what you typically like to wear, there is going to be something in our industry, a company out there somewhere making what you like to wear that will be able to carry a gun with. That's a great thing about technology. And that's a great thing about innovation and all of that. Foss out there says, in everyday life, most people don't notice if you're printing. They're more concerned about what they're doing. That's what I'm saying. That's what's my pet peeve is if you're printing, cool. I don't care about printing, but the whole touching the gun and fidgeting, most people, if you're worried about people noticing that you're carrying a gun, you have to get over that. 99.99999% of people in your everyday life are not walking around looking at your right hip or your left hip to see if you're carrying a gun. They've got other things that they're going to be walking around Walmart trying not to bump their cart into something. They don't care. But if you keep on touching that gun, you keep on adjusting, you keep on tugging that shirt down, they may not know it be a gun, but they're going to sit there and say, that dude's acted weird. Like, why is he always like in that one spot? Keep touching that one spot on his hip or keep pulling his shirt over that one spot. What's he hiding? So that's one of my big pet peeves. That's why that is, because don't bring attention to yourself. Most, like Foss says, whether you're printing or whatever, most people are not walking around trying to find people that are carrying guns. They're just not doing it. So don't worry about that. the less discreet that you can be, or the more discreet that you can be, the less fidgety that you can be, most people aren't going to notice, nor will they care. That's my rant on that. But it is hard to break a habit and all of that. Smeggy says there's a shirt from Vertex that has an undershirt at the bottom half. You can tuck it in. So there's a lot of those, and there's a lot of companies that are making kind of like compression shirts, if you will, that you can wear as an undershirt. Be sleeveless if it's hot and all that. You don't have to wear this big thing, but usually they're sleeveless and like compression shirts, but there's like a pocket right in there. So if you wear a t-shirt or whatever, and you can have it right there. If you're, it's going to sound weird. If you wear slacks, like, and you have to wear a suit or whatever, and you don't want to ankle carry, or you don't want to shoulder carry underneath your coat or whatever, but you're wearing a nice shirt and tie, or button down shirt and slacks, and you can't find a holster that isn't going to print, you can find these. They come in white, gray, black, whatever, but they're basically undershirts, but they're kind of compression, but you wear them underneath your shirt. And all you got to do is just lift up, and there's a little pocket here. You can put, subcompact gun in there. Just sits right there on your belly or on your side or whatever. But there's some really cool, innovative stuff out there. Go ahead.
So now you brought up a good point when you're talking about undershirts. Yeah, since I've started carrying, I wear some type of undershirt almost all the time. Even with open carry, because like I said, open carry, typically I've got a t-shirt on, and even though I'm open carrying, my t-shirt will come down over it. And so I still want something between me and the firearm. So yeah, your athletic style shirts, the Under Armour shirts, or even a simple wife beater. I mean, seriously, just something to go in between you and the firearm, especially if you live out, you live in Texas or any place where it gets hot. It can be helpful.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm always wearing a t-shirt underneath. It might be a sleeveless one or whatever. But yeah, I'll either have one of those, like, just a normal, what they call undershirts on, or I'll have a moisture wicking kind of, Under Armour type shirt underneath whatever I'm wearing. But yeah, for the reason only is friction. I don't want that holster, that gun or whatever, to be rubbing on me and my love handles and all of that. So, that's the thing. We're right there at an hour and a half. Is there anything that you want to bring up, whether it's a do or a don't, for someone out there that might be going this weekend or might be looking for September in Texas to start carrying with Constitutional? Anything that we haven't touched on that you really want to throw out there, whether it's a do or a don't for someone who's new to carrying?
So I think this goes general and across the board, but if you've got somebody, whether it's online, whether it's in person, and they speak in definitives, nod your head, smile, whatever, and walk away. Because when we talk about carrying, when you talk about firearm ownership, when you talk about all these different, there's so much nuance. Depends on your perspective, depends on your experience, it depends on where you live, it depends. And if somebody's out there and I do it sometimes, and I have to backtrack where it happens. And so if you're dealing with a person that's accidentally done it, usually the conversation will continue and they'll correct themselves. But if they're wagging a finger, talking down and speaking in definitives, smile, nod your head, whatever, turn around, walk away.
Thank you. Appreciate the knowledge. Walk.
And then go seek out other sources of information and whatever, because some of the stuff they may be telling you may be valid stuff, but if they're presenting it as that is absolutely unequivocally the only option, period, blah, 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 then they may have ulterior motives or whatever the case may be. Like maybe they want to sell you some stuff.
Or exactly. If you ask someone's opinion on something and they take the same attitude of their opinion is the gospel, same thing, run.
Now, if they caveat it, right?
Say
Oh
this is
no.
just my opinion,
Oh, Ghost Press.
absolutely. But yeah, I agree. But yeah, there's a lot of people that, like I said, yeah. I mean, if they come and say, hey, this is my opinion, this is what I think, you can take this for what you want to. But if they sit there and say, hey, what do you think is the best holster? You better not get anything besides an alien gear or nothing besides a clinger or whatever. Whoa.
Yeah. And
Easy,
even
easy.
if I talk trash, I mean, because
Mhm.
we've all been that way. We've all had people that go, well, that handgun's the worst ever, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, well, I've had one for 20 years and I've never had a minute's
Never had a
trouble out
problem.
of it. But
Mhm.
at the same time, I'm guilty of saying, well, I've had those and they're just ATN, for example, ATN thermal,
Absolutely.
right?
Sure.
Horrible experience. We'll never buy another one, blah, 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 blah. But there's people out there that have them and have never had a day's worth of trouble. So,
Yeah, and my buddy's got a Thor, and I love that thing. I messed around with it for a while, but
yeah,
you're like,
right. But again, are they flat out telling you no, it's garbage, end of story? Or are
Right.
they saying, hey, here's my experience and it sucks and I hate them and here's why?
That's right.
But, and if you want to take a risk, if somebody's telling you the specifics of something, right? They don't like a holster and here is why, XYZ, yada, yada, yada. Well, if XYZ, yada, yada, yada applies to you,
Yeah.
well, then not that's why going the extra mile and not being a person that speaks in definitive is helpful, because you're not being helpful by just telling somebody, oh, that holster's trash. But if
Right.
you say, hey, I hate those holsters, here's why, yada, 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 and that person wants to do yada, 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 then they know that they may want to look elsewhere. Maybe they don't go down the road of buying that holster.
Yeah. Now, Buck out there says, don't be scared to ask questions. Absolutely ask questions. Now, kind of going into holsters and all of that, there is something that you can do that might help in your choices and all of that, or your clothing or belts or whatever. If you know someone in your life that carries, and they're basically the same size, height, weight, kind of build you are, that might be the first person you might want to go and say, hey, we're built a lot of the same way, about the same size. What has worked for you? Because I'm thinking about doing this. Now, obviously, you don't take their opinion as the gospel either, but they've kind of probably already worked through some of the issues that you might have to work through. If, excuse me, if you're similarly sized, the same build, you're going to carry the same position, whatever, and you know someone, that might be someone who will be a really good resource for you as well. Let's see here. Yeah, people's shape is all different. So, if I'm telling you what I like as a holster, but you're 6'3", 225, probably not going to like it. Or like Smeggy, if you're 6'3" and 127 pounds, probably going to be different than what I'm, who's not 6'3" and not 125 pounds. But yeah, that's just something that you might want to find someone that kind of looks like you and is built like you and say, hey, you've been carrying a while. What are some stuff that you've run into problems, or some of the stuff that you've had to kind of go through, because there'll be good resources for you for sure. If there's any questions out there in the chat, like I said, we've kind of gone to the point where we've talked about what we want to talk about. If there's questions out there that you want to know, feel free to throw them out there. And if not, then we'll cut this thing off early tonight, which is awesome. But I don't want to leave if there's someone out there that has questions that want to be asked. So if you're out there, and Smeggy, Smeggy came in a little bit late, and that's cool. But he said, don't get flimsy gun belts. Yeah, we've been through belts extensively for a while. There's no such thing as the right holster. There's no such thing as the right belt. There's no such thing as the right gun. That is all something you're going to have to figure out. Go ahead.
One thing we didn't really hit on was, type of carry, right?
True. Once again, that could be a whole other to itself. Yeah.
Oh, it can, but I just want to bring this up in case there are
Yeah.
people out there. There's a lot of people that pocket carry, And to each their own, and whatever, I understand. Now I've got a little North American Arms 22 mag revolver, and of course it's single action. And I do carry it pocket carry with no holster. But depending on what you're carrying, I would highly advise some type of a pocket holster, a neoprene sleeve type thing, or something like that.
Uncle Mike's, even, yeah. People slam on
Yeah.
Uncle Mike's, but it's worth it. It's something's
Yeah.
better than nothing.
Yeah, and make sure that you're not carrying anything else in that pocket other than your firearm if you're going to pocket carry as well.
Great point. I've got videos on this. I'm sure you've got videos on this over the years.
Oh, I don't.
Well, okay. I've got videos on this, round and chamber or not. I'm going to preface this by saying yes, in the chamber.
Mm-hmm.
But we can have this discussion. Who am I to tell someone they shouldn't?
Yep.
I prefer personally that, but if you don't want to, that's on you. And hey, there are a lot of things that could go wrong with that. There are a lot of things that you're going to have to practice more. But if that's what you choose to do, that's you, man. That is absolutely you. But I'm going to tell you,
I think
Israeli carry is a mistake.
I think that's a move that a lot of newbies make, and I don't say newbies being mean, but I think that, and because I think that's an anxiety thing. I think it's
safer. Absolutely,
yeah. And so I think as you carry more, I think you get a little more comfortable with all that. You learn, especially if you're new to firearms and you're new to carrying both at the same time, right? Yeah. Like if you're a lifelong firearm owner, then probably you're going to carry with a round in the chamber because you know that inherently firearms are pretty doggone safe. Even if they don't have a manual thumb safety and all of that, they have all sorts of safety mechanisms, right? So again, keep your finger off the trigger, and odds are it's not going to go bang. But I can get, if you're new to firearms in general and you're new to carrying, I can get it, the anxiety. And if that's what it takes, I'd rather you do that than not carry at all. If nothing else, you've got something. If nothing else, you've got something fairly heavy you can hit somebody with, is the way I look at it. So, but I would say, carry like that, but I would encourage you to practice, train, get more comfortable, and work up to a point, or maybe you got to find the right firearm that you're comfortable with, right? Carrying that way. That's a potential too.
Well, and there's something to be said about that. It's funny to me, and you hear people all the time, I hate that gun because it has a manual thumb safety on it. Why do you hate that gun? Just don't use the safety if you don't like it,
Dude, it's not carrying without a round in the chamber. But if I carry a 1911 style handgun, whether that's my Colt Mustang or whether it's anything that's single action, right? Sure. Obviously my Beretta 84 is double action, so hammer down. But I'm not carrying with hammer back. I'm not doing it. No. And it's not that I don't trust the safety. It's that I don't trust myself in moving around or doing this or doing that I accidentally knock that safety off. And so if you carry a 1911 locked and cocked with the safety on, and that's what you do, bro, I don't have a problem. But me, I'm going to have to carry a 1911. I know I'm going to have to fan the hammer when I come out with it. I'm going to have to.
And the whole safety thing is if that makes you comfortable in carrying with having a manual thumb safety, I'd rather you have that than not carry. But if someone tells you don't buy that gun because of the thumb safety, don't use it if you don't want to use it.
Right.
That doesn't make the gun a piece of shit gun. I would rather you carry a gun that has a thumb safety on it and that allows you mentally to carry one in the chamber than the other way around.
Well,
I would rather you have a thumb safety gun if that means that you'll feel safe enough to carry one in the chamber, by flipping that safety off. As long as you're practicing drawing and as you're presenting, flipping that safety off or however you're going to do it. But once again, it comes down to don't listen to what people say. If they work talking absolutes, they say that gun is trash because of this. If it's trash because it's had a history of failing or blowing up or causing harm, sure. If they're saying it's a piece of trash because there's a thumb safety on there,
right,
walk away from them. Go ahead.
No, what I was going to say is the same as my thing with the 1911, just in reverse. If you're talking about a thumb safety, just to play devil's advocate, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
Is I think most people's argument is with the thumb safety, it's the same thing. I mean, in doing stuff, is there a chance that you throw that thumb safety on by accident, and then you pull out, and then oh crap, the safety's gotten on somehow, right? But I also think, now to back off of devil's advocates for a minute, I think that if you're carrying something that has a manual safety, I think that needs to be part of your training. Whatever is making sure when you come out, you're making sure that safety is off. Even if you keep it off, right? Even if you keep it off, which I do with my Beretta 84 all the time, it's ready to go. It's double action, right? So I don't have to keep it locked and cocked. When I pull out, I can go double action with it, but I got to make sure that safety's off, right? And so that's part of carrying that, is just when I come out with it to make sure that safety's off. That way I do have the double action when I come out with it.
Absolutely. No doubt. Once again, it whether you carry with a safety on or not one in the chamber, it's going to add an extra step in your process. But if you practice that enough and you become proficient that, once again, what Clover said, and I said, I would much rather you carry however you want to carry than not carry at all. So you do how you need to do it, and don't let anyone tell you that you're wrong. If that's how you're going to do it, and that's the only way that you feel comfortable in carrying, do it. Just make sure you're practicing. Rich White, let's see. He says, I was taught semi-auto handgun shooting with 1911s. I thumb off the safety even if the gun doesn't have one. It's just exactly. Yeah. Absolutely, 100%. That's just the way it goes.
Well, the beauty for me is I've got a vast amount of experience for decades, I guess, at this point, with the Browning Buckmark. And so it has a manual safety, which is also kind of doubles as a thumb rest. And if your thumb's resting on it, it's off. So I've got that muscle memory, field dexterity, if you're talking about a right-handed, thumb safety, already, to kind of, when I grab something, my thumb is there, my thumb realizes it's there and makes that downward motion.
Now, Rod wants to know what's this safety you guys are talking about. There you go. He's a Glock guy, so he doesn't know what safeties are. So
finger off the trigger. That's the number one.
Hey, there you go. Finger off the trigger is the best safety out there for sure. Any more questions out there from anyone that might be having anything, or even comments, not even questions? If you have a comment, something that we haven't touched on that you think might be important to someone that's new to carrying, whether it's open or concealed, makes no difference to me. Go ahead and let that out there, because I'm definitely not the definitive resource on carrying. I never claimed to be. It is a passion of mine. It's a passion for this channel, but I'm always learning as well. And there are podcasts that I listen to and people that I listen to that definitely help me out.
I've gotten so many comments through, Texas Constitutional Carry stuff. You need to do a video on, best practices for carrying and this and that. And every time I'm like, hey, here's a link to a pretty good channel for that. And I link to your channel. Like, I don't. Dude, I want to shoot revolvers and lever guns, right? I don't want to do a video on everyday carry. I've done some everyday carry pocket dumps, and I've done some of your drills of the month, and I've done some different things. But that's not what I want to do. I don't want to turn into a concealed carry or open carry.
It's the same thing that I get people asking me to do videos on revolvers or 22s or shotguns or bolt action. Hey, I got a channel that you just like, and I'll say, go check out for it. And sometimes I'll even go over to your channel and find that exact video. Yeah. Like I'll go to your channel and say, bolt action, search just in your channel for bolt action. And I'll pick a one of them and say, all right, here's a great video that you need to go watch and put that and all that. So yeah, I get rashes when you start talking revolvers and bolt action. I'm allergic to that shit.
I could talk it. Obviously, we've talked it here for nearly 2 hours. I could talk it, but do I really want to go out on the range of the Texas heat and shoot some kind of video on, my tips for open carry? That, eventually it might get around to it or whatever, but there's a lot of stuff that are much higher on the list than that, unfortunately.
Well, see, G23 is calling us out. He said, I would disagree with finger off the trigger is number one. It's using your brain is number one.
I guess so, but
sure.
But if I guess using your brain, was that training yourself to keep your finger off the trigger when you're not? I don't know. I think they kind of go hand in hand a little bit.
Is it chicken or the egg?
Yeah,
chicken or the egg.
Yeah.
The last thing I do want to touch on, that I just thought about, because for me, and I'm sure that you're the same way. Most people out here, it's second nature now, and we don't really think about it anymore. But I'll tell you this, and it's not something you're going to have to worry about doing. It's going to happen. I think people that carry do two things. One, they are much safer. They think about safety more on a daily basis, but more importantly than that, I think that they're naturally going to start getting better situational awareness. And that is a huge thing. You're going to find yourself looking for different things. And when you go to a restaurant, I'm never going to have my back to the door. I'm going to know where exits are. And it's not, people are going to say, oh, that just sounds weird. It sounds like you're paranoid. No, it's not. It's just being prepared. And it's your situational awareness when it comes to carrying, even if you're not carrying, guys, being situationally aware is going to put you in a better position to just in regular everyday life, whether you're carrying a gun or not. It makes no difference. No matter what your job is, you should be aware of everything that's going on around you, at least to a certain extent. And if someone catches your eye, say, I'm not going to stare at that guy, but that guy in the purple shirt, until that guy leaves, something about him irks me. I'm going to know exactly where that guy is until he leaves. It sounds weird, but you'll find yourself. And like I said, you don't have to think about it. I think most people, when they start carrying, their situational awareness rises just naturally, I think. Don't you think?
Yeah. No, I think so. I think that's a great point. The carrying is to me not a solution. Carrying is, a last ditch, last resort type thing. Your first priority is never be in the situation in the first place.
That's right.
And you got to have situational awareness to do that. It's kind of like I talked about with risk management, right? On the insurance side of things. There's many, 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 many times that I don't carry. When I went to Talladega, I didn't carry.
Yep.
And I don't know that I've said that publicly, but I didn't. And I didn't even feel the need.
I actually don't carry when we go to SHOT Show.
I didn't feel the need. I never once felt I was in danger. Why? Yeah. Because I didn't stop in bad parts of town, right? I was situationally aware. I didn't stop in unlighted areas. I was cognizant of people that was around me. I check all the boxes, right, for situational awareness. And so, I never once felt naked or alone or, threatened or uncomfortable or in trouble.
Right.
There, in certain places, I get it. Okay, so I don't want to stereotype or make a general statement.
Sure.
But I think that the world tells us, media tells us, there are instructors that tell us this. There are certain YouTube channels that tell us this, that, oh, this world is just such a dangerous place. And really, it's not a dangerous place. There are areas, sure, I get it, but the vast majority of people, literally, I can travel from here to freaking Alabama and back, right? And I never once got into a situation, felt uncomfortable that I was in an unsafe area or my life was in danger or anything else, right? Now, granted, I was all along I-20. I was at truck stops and I was at a range, and then even the hotel I stayed in, while it wasn't the greatest place, it wasn't. It wasn't terrible. It's not like the one budget and roll call stopped at that time.
Near that,
right? So, yeah, I mean, I don't view the world as this place that's just went so downhill and it's in the dumper and dangers around every corner. But again, it's situational awareness, right? And so, I think that's the number one thing. If you're not working on your situational awareness or already a person that practices that on a regular basis, then maybe
do that before you start carrying a gun.
Maybe hone in on that before you carry a gun, because that's going to actually keep you safer, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because that's going to keep you out of the situation. Now, the other thing that you mentioned the guy, the shifty guy or whatever. The other thing with situational awareness, which may or may not be part of it, is I call it being a student of humanity. Is being able to read people's mannerisms and other things. And so if somebody's acting weird or whatever, here's the other thing with me, and I feel like I've talked forever.
You have.
And I've said this a bunch of times. I'm not the savior of the world. I'm not the Avenger or Superman or whatever. I carry for myself and my family. I don't carry to save everybody in the supermarket. That's and that's cruel to say, but if I did not say that, I would be dishonest.
If you saved everybody in that supermarket, it's only because you were ending that threat to save you and your family's life.
Right.
They're just happen to be saved as well. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
No, I hear you. I get a question all the time. Like, if you're at the gas station and someone pulls a gun, what are you going to do first? Depends. Where am I? What's the situation? Is there someone else with me that's there? If my wife or my daughter or someone of friends with me, I'm going to get them to safety. If I choose to come back into the fight, that's a whole other issue. But the first thing I'm going to do is make sure that my loved ones are safe.
Right.
That's before I do anything. It's not my job to put that guy down. Now, if I feel like that guy's going to hurt me or my family or whatever, then it's a whole different issue. If I have an opportunity to put a guy down that could hurt other people and I've taken care of my family and friends or whatever the situation is, and I feel that not only me, but everyone else is in danger and I have a shot, that's a whole different issue. I don't know. I mean, I train a lot. I practice a lot. But the answer is I don't know.
If you're
I would like to tell you what I'll do, but I don't know. I've never been in that situation. And God, I hope that I never am in that situation.
Yeah. No joke. Yeah. If you're at the, let's say the automotive center of Walmart, right? Mm-hmm. And you're with your wife or whatever, and your daughter or your son, getting a car battery, whatever the case may be, right? And shots ring out. Well, the door is 20 foot away. We're gone. Yep. Period. Now, if I'm at the speedy checkout up front and the guy walks in with an AK and starts spraying lead, I probably put them down behind the counter, right? Yep. And I engage at that point. But that's two totally different situations. And the first one may sound cruel, but it's just the way it is.
That's right. Almost that 2 hour mark, man. A half hour ago, we were like, hey, anything left? And once again, you and I have figured out a way to talk for a half hour.
Right.
Man, I love it. No, it's all good. Let people know where they can find you. Any projects you got coming up. I know you've got a cool, we talked about it earlier, but you've got a really cool guest coming on tomorrow, I think at 4:00. Is that right? 4:00?
Yeah, 5 Eastern, 4 Central. Yeah.
Tell people they can find you, all that good stuff, projects, all that.
Clovertech.com, and then that'll get you to YouTube and any of the other good Lord, I don't know, 3 or 4 dozen platforms I'm on. Shout out, I guess while we're doing this, to Firearm Fanatic. If you haven't checked out that platform, they relaunched. It's been around for a long time, quite a while. And it's similar to a Facebook. I mean, you can play games on there even and do all kinds of stuff with this new relaunch. But yeah, they've had a pro firearm social media platform for a while. They did a relaunch, a revamp, an upgrade, if you will. And it's even better. It's pretty cool. So go check that out, especially if you're a creator. Man, there's nothing wrong with creating accounts and pages and getting your brand and your presence out in more places. So go check them out. It's Firearm Fanatic with a K, I think. FANATIK, I think.
Absolutely. Get Rachel coming on. It's at 4:00 Central, 5 Eastern. Let's see here. Get the studio come up Thursday night.
Yeah, and I got an email earlier from a creator that asked us to discuss. We talked about it before. It's kind of like this show, right? Like you recycle stuff. But wanting us to talk about monetization. So I hadn't thought about talking about that, and we've talked about it before, but I've got a creator out there asking about it. So we may dive back into that and talk about some monetization stuff.
Absolutely. That'd be interesting as well. Always interesting to hear people's thoughts on monetization. Some people, even though they have monetization, they don't monetize. I don't monetize any of my live streaming. I know you don't do that either. There are certain videos that I put out now that I know are going to come back yellow. So at this point, I don't even worry about monetizing. I just, turn the monetization off of that video. And honestly, I have not seen, this is going to go against what a lot of YouTubers want you to believe. I have not, actually, I've seen the opposite. I have some videos that I've put out in the last few weeks that I did not turn monetization off, that are doing better than videos with monetization on. So if they're out there telling you, if they're not monetized, YouTube's not going to push them. I was watching a video, I think it was from vidIQ, and whether or not this is true, I don't know. You might know more about this. We can talk about this tomorrow, Thursday night. Right. But apparently his contact, and they're big enough, they actually have a contact and a representative at YouTube, says that the algorithm does not know whether the video is monetized or not when it talks about pushing it out there, suggestion. So if anyone out there says, well, if your stuff's not monetized, YouTube's not going to push it, that's bullshit. Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting. The monetization thing is interesting. So looking forward to that conversation as well. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's multiple algorithms, first of all. That's what a lot of people don't understand. And yeah, the search and discovery algorithm is completely devoid of any communication with monetization. The algorithms and stuff dealing with that are totally separate thing, totally separate team, all that good stuff. Yeah, totally. There was something I was gonna. Interesting thing. I put out a early release video today to YouTube channel members and Patreon patrons, and I got called on an error in that video. So I haven't had to do this in a while, but I actually went back and had to do a little bit. I had to edit about 5 seconds out of the video to correct the error. But
shit, I guess.
Yeah, then I'll have to republish. So. Yeah. But yeah, it's only about 5 seconds I had to cut. And so, if you're out there, if you're a Patreon patron and you're a YouTube channel member, you've got a special version of that video right now, because when it releases public, it won't have that error. So I would say,
you're telling me is now I have to go watch both fucking videos to figure out the 5 seconds.
No, because as soon as I publish the other one, I'll probably pull the old one down. So what I'm saying is, if you're a Patreon patron or YouTube channel member and you have access to that right now, go see if you can figure out the error in that.
Okay. I'll have to go do that, because I'm all about making you,
right,
making fun of you for being wrong.
Right.
What's up, Andrew? Snob, hey, Snob, just like I was a couple weeks ago with your chat. I came in after, like right as y'all are hitting yeah, turn the chat off. I jump in.
Well, technically, it's not my problem. It's kind of like that Axion Lumens thing or whatever. It was something on a website, a product website that I had somebody say something about it, and I went and looked, and what it says on the website and the reality of the situation are two different things. So
there you go.
It's like, yeah. And I don't want the troll comments that's liable to come from it. So
then they will come.
Oh, getting back onto, I know you were trying to close out here.
I'm trying to get the fuck out of here, but go.
Yeah, well, you're more up to speed on a lot of the insurance because you actually have an old video where you covered a lot of that. So G23 earlier was he posed something to me out there in the chat, and he said something about people can still sue you civilly. So does carry insurance cover you for civil stuff?
There, so we'll just pull up US. Let's just take USCCA for instance. They're going to have different plans, but there will be some that will have. Let's see here. Let's go over here. Let me just pull this up, and like I said, there's what in the hell?
Nice.
There we go. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to screen share real quick.
I'm trying to stretch us to 2.5 hours here because it wouldn't be I
understand
an armed citizen without that.
Yeah, at least lately, you're right. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's go to USCCA, and they're going to come over here. Let's see if I can find where it would be. Man, they're going through all sorts of stuff. It's very, very in depth. Delta Defense is their insurance arm. So if you see the Delta Defense up here at the top left, it's not necessarily.
Yeah.
That's USCCA's arm of it.
Well, it would have to be, just your opinion, because this is my opinion on that situation. It would have to be a fairly weird situation. I mean, anybody can sue anybody civilly for any single reason, right? Absolutely. I could tomorrow sue any given person out there in the chat for showing up in the chat and tagging me or something, which is really stupid, but I could sue them for that. So you would have to, in order, first of all, the family would have to be fairly well off to be able to afford a lawyer, or you screwed up enough. There was a law firm willing to do it pro bono because they knew they could win. Right. And then second of all, you would have to have something, or a means, whether you own a business or whether something, right. Have a big, nice, fancy house, a bunch of fancy cars, or whatever the case may be, to kind of prompt them to think they're going to get something if they sue you. I guess what I'm saying is there's a lot of factors, I think, that would go into being sued civilly before you were actually sued civilly, right?
Yeah, I'm going to try to go. I'm going to hit this join now, and let's go through the different ones. So the gold, which is their cheapest, it's about $25 a month. Of course, they want to ask all my email and all of that
just to look at the stuff.
Here we go. Okay, so for $25 a month, you're going to get the USCC Protector Kit, which includes your online video, concealed carry magazine, access to nationwide USCC certified instructors, blah 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 blah. Self-defense liability insurance, a $2 million limit applicable to claims, expenses, and damages, and a $250,000 limit applicable to defense expenses. It doesn't necessarily say whether it's criminal or civil. So you have a $2 million applicable claims, and typically claims are more civil. But you have claim defenses, claims expenses and damages, and those typically are going to be more civil, where $250 for defense expenses will be more probably criminal.
Right.
But that's the $25 a month.
Well,
Let's
obviously,
go.
it goes up from there.
Yeah, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the elite membership, which is about $50 a month, and we'll look at this one.
It's the same.
So you're going to, yeah, I mean, there's obviously going to be a lot more additional insurance. Let's go down to the insurance has been purchased by USCCA and is one of the benefits of membership. USCCA members are additional insured under a policy issued by USCCA by Universal Fire and Casualty. But we're talking here still a $2 million limit applicable to claim expenses and damages, and a $250,000 limit applicable to defense expenses.
Right.
But yeah, you're going to have access to a self-defense team. You're going to have all of that stuff. So yeah, like I said, and there are going to be some of them that are going to sit there and say X amount for criminal, X amount for civil. Someone's going to sit there and just say, you get this amount for litigation expenses, whether it's criminal or civil. So you're out there and you look at them and you have a question, call or whatever, and ask those questions, especially if their wording kind of maybe interesting, yeah, and a lot of them are going to. Pat says USCCA specializes in gun related cases. Yes and no. I mean, you might have an attorney that personally that has done firearm related cases. You have access to an attorney that you don't have to have insurance for that. Where the USCCA might come into play is helping you out with some of those costs. It's up to you. Like I said, if insurance is something that you want and it's worthwhile to you, and you think the benefit versus cost is in a good place, don't let anyone tell you that you're wrong. Do you have to have it? I don't think anything that's mandatory is good. So that's just me.
I think you're wrong.
There you go. I'm wrong a lot. A lot. Especially my wife tells me that. Guns and Barbecue says, did Clover just threaten to sue everyone in the chat tomorrow? Good thing he didn't say Thursday. So there you go.
Heck yeah.
All right. We're at 2 hours and 15 minutes, and you've done a damn good job, you asshole, for getting
I tried.
this close.
I tried, really, man. I tried.
I hear you. Thanks everyone that's watched this live. Good discussion. If you're out there and you have questions on carrying, whether you're new to it or just have questions in general, feel free to leave a comment down below and replay, or on podcast form has a comment section. Email me, call me, text me, whatever. Get a hold of me or get a hold of Clover. He doesn't mind either. And ask those questions. So I have no problem, especially when it comes to carry. This is, like I said, everyone knows this is a passion of mine. This is one of the So I have absolutely no problem whatsoever talking, carrying, and all that. I'll give you my opinion. I'll answer everything that is much to the best of my ability. And if I don't know, I'll tell you I don't know, but I'll probably know someone that does. But yeah, thanks out there for watching. If you're watching replay or listening to podcast form, once again, questions, comments, utilize them. If you like what you hear, maybe push that like button, push the subscribe button, whatever it is, push that button. If not, hey, it's all good. Clover says don't mind at all, but he does charge $9.99 per minute. That's true. No, he's not. But yeah, thanks for you guys for watching. We'll see you soon. And I'm trying to think if there's anything coming on this week. I don't think there's anything going on that's crazy. If you are in the North Central Arkansas area, Sunday at our range from 2 to 4, we'll have our monthly fun shoot. If you want to come out and shoot with me and a couple guys that you might actually know their names, we shoot once a month, and we open up to the public, so anyone's free to come out there and all that. If you want to get a hold of me, and I'll let you know the information on the fun shoot. But we're gonna go out there and have fun sending lead down range, or I guess polymer projectiles, whatever. We're sending projectiles down range this Sunday. See you soon. Semper Fi.